Today I'm given the chance to talk about communications. The should I say the basic understanding of communications, and then because communication is a very big area, so I'm going to focus on certain foundational aspect of communications. Yeah, I'm going to look at the meanings of communications, the theories normally used by scholars when it comes to explaining or describing communications, and then of course, what does Islam say about communications? Yeah, so that is basically my intro slide, and then can you move to the second one? Okay, so basically I'm going to look at these basic components because I'm given 45 minutes only, so I'm going to be a bit restricted. Yeah. Can you go to the yeah, I'm going to look at the process, the functions and development a bit, and these are the references I'm using for this particular lecture. Basically most of the ideas are taken from Wood. Yeah. 2017, but there are other texts that you can refer to. But I would say if you talk about understanding communication, basic understanding, this is one of this is one of the best references. Yeah, and then another one is the second one is a bit more leisure in terms of approaches. But if you want to really understand how a Muslim should communicate, then you might want to read the second one. That is written by a convert. So when hearing becomes listening, I found the book interesting in the sense that, according to the biography, he went to one of the Middle Eastern country and then he memorized the Quran. So basically, he knows Islam better than me. As simple as that. Okay, let's proceed further with the third slide. Can you move? Okay. So this is the key questions that we have to ask ourselves when it comes to studying communications. One thing that we have to know as Muslim, we don't want to waste our time. So before we learn something, we have to know why we learn something. So similar with communication, you have to know the benefits of why do I need to learn communications. That covers media as well. So basically, these are the common answers here. The first one is you want to be a skilled communicator. I think you know that not everybody is gifted with that ability to speak fluently with and who can manage the interaction properly. So for many people, we have to learn, we have to train. So by having a proper exposure, then only we know how to communicate properly. And of course, the second is how can you adapt at making sense of what happens in your life. So these are basically the reasons and the benefits of studying communication. So basically, as I said just now, when you plan or when you want to learn something, you have to know the reason why, or else it's going to be a waste of your time, a waste of your effort. Yeah. So can I proceed further? So when it comes to communication, of course, these are just the basic components that you have to know. Yeah? We talk about, I think, generally as human beings, yeah, I think we are very much exposed to these two. When we communicate either verbally, non-vocally, vocally, or non-verbally, vocally, and non-vocally as well. There are four components. But among the reasons for us to communicate would be this. Yeah, we develop our identities by communicating. That's the first one. Second one, of course, asking questions. We cannot. The thing that we have to know as human beings, we don't have this telepathic ability. I'm not sure, because when some people claim that you have this telepathic ability, you have the ability to really read someone's mind, and I'm not sure because I haven't conducted a proper study. I myself, I cannot read someone's mind. I can simply assume, for example, if I see someone crying or laughing, I can simply assume whether someone is happy or sad only. But I cannot be 100% sure that the person is happy or sad. For example, maybe you have a situation where when you got your result, maybe for your degree, you felt so happy that you cried. So in that context, cries are basically indicating that you are very happy, not the other way around. So basically you talk about having to make sure that you know what you are doing. Then of course you know the answer to the questions. Then of course you have problems, and of course you have to communicate. This is one of the reason why, at least in the context of Malaysia, we have a high percentage of divorce, because according to at least the officers from the relevant authority, one of the reasons is because the couples fail to communicate properly. In the context of nobody really knows what is a problem. The problem might be A, but then when you don't communicate, then you might assume the problem is B, C, and up to Z. So that's the reason why it's very, very important for us to communicate. Or else you have so many assumptions, and of course, assumptions can be very, very misleading, for example. Especially when it comes to the media. I think I already read media, or at least consume certain type of media. The headlines can be very, very misleading, because headline is meant to capture your attentions, but you cannot understand the whole thing by simply reading the headlines. Headlines is meant to provoke your interest. So that's the reason why when you watch a TV, for example, when you watch news bulletin, for example, you can see the headlines is a bit different from the content itself. Similar with news, for example, written news or in newspapers, for example, the headlines are like a crowd puller, but the content might be different from the headlines. Especially now we are living in an era where there are so many confusions. And of course, you need to, and the last one given is making plans for the future. For example, for husband and wife, you cannot really have a good partnership without having a proper communication when it comes to planning for your future. So these are just some examples. But you can understand why studying communication is needed, whether as a professional or whether just as a husband, rather as a wife, for example, because somehow or other the failure to communicate will somehow result to an unwanted situations. Can I proceed further? So these are the values of studying communications, personal life. As I said just now, in order to know who we are, we have to communicate. Normally, I think you are familiar with the system where at the end of a talk, there will be survey, am I right? And survey is basically given back to the speaker. So what is your rate? So you yourself, for example, in my case, I know whether I'm a good speaker or not so good speaker by looking at the survey or the result of the survey. And when someone say that you are handsome, when you are good looking, that will somehow affect the way we behave, the way we present ourselves. As simple as if a guy says to a woman, "You look pretty today," that can be defined differently by different people. That can be just a compliment, and that can be understood as flirty expressions. But somehow or other, this will affect the way you live your life. And the second one is personal relationship. And I'm not sure in other countries. In Malaysia, we do have this kind of workshop for future husband and wife. So maybe they are trained on how to become a good husband, how to become a good wife. And one of the things that should be known to future husband and wife, how can you communicate properly as husband and wife? Because when you communicate as quote unquote, I'm not sure whether I should use system lover, because lover is defined differently by different culture. So when you are at the stage of lovers only, or in Malay we call it as kasih only, the way you interact will be different as compared to when you officially become husband and wife. So that's the reason why sometimes it's good to know what skills can be used if you want to improve the way you interact with your husband or with your wife. Whether you should improve the way you interact verbally, vocally, or you should improve the way you communicate non-verbally, non-vocally. And then the third one here is professional life. Yeah, especially for example, I cite a few examples here. Teaching. If you are a teacher, then of course you have that assessment at the end of the semester. In UIA, we have this SFS. Yeah, you can see one of the components whether the lecturer has delivered the lecture clearly and effectively. So basically, if your profession involves talking with people or communicating with the public, then of course you have no choice. By who, by group, we have to learn, we have to improve the way we interact, the way we deliver our points. Yeah. Okay, can we proceed further? Then you have career success. Yeah. I always give this example to my students. Yeah. For those that are in marketing, for example, you might have the best product in the world. Yeah. But then if you fail to communicate properly, then you are not going to get anything from the product. I know in Malaysia, for example, there are so many SME, the owner of SME or small and medium entrepreneurship, who have good product. But the problem sometimes is how can you promote the product so people can get more information about your product? Yeah. So you have to be known. In order to be known, then you have to communicate, whether through social media or through other media. Right. Similar with professors or researchers. Your research can be the best research in the world, but then if nobody knows where to find the research or how can you communicate, how can you summarize the findings in a simpler format? Then of course you are not going to not really benefit from that particular product. Yeah, you don't really maximize the profit from your effort. Yeah, and then of course civic life. Yeah, as a driver, as a cleaner, or as a normal human being, for example. Yeah, you need to have that skills. For example, on campus, I communicate with the administrative staff. I also communicate with the cleaners as well. So when you communicate with a cleaner, the way you communicate with a cleaner might be a bit different compared to the way you communicate with the administrator. Right. Yeah. So basically, these are the values of studying communications. Yeah. Can I proceed further? Okay. Now I'm going to define the term communication. Yeah. There are many definitions given by different scholars depending on what are you interested to find. But these are the basic components of the definitions. Yeah, this is taken from Wood just now in the book that I mentioned earlier on. Yeah, communication is understood as a systematic process in which people interact with and through symbols to create and interpret meaning. One thing that you have to know: communication is a symbolic process. Yeah. I did mention earlier on, yeah, we don't have this telepathic ability. I do not know what are in your minds right now. Even if you switch on your video, I won't be able to really read I won't be able to understand why you attend this particular lecture. I can simply assume that you want to upskill yourself. So we use symbols. Of course, there are certain symbols that we use systematically. So then we use symbol, and of course symbols, the meaning of the symbol differs according to culture and context. Yeah, and then as simple as this, in the context of Malaysia, I'm going to give you an example. Yeah, one simple example. If someone says that I'm sorry, that is basically referring to I apologize. If someone says that I feel sorry, then that indicates empathy or sympathy. So this is what you have in the context of that particular communications. Yeah. And then, of course, especially right now, you have so many new jargons, new terms, which somehow define differently according to context. For example, ice, yeah, ice. I think you know that ice is just ice cube. But then, if you go to the prison or if you talk with a drug addict, ice is just a type of drugs. So when you interact with someone, you have to know exactly what is the meaning of the message. Right. And then, of course, the meaning of the message differ according to individuals. Right. Yeah. For example, I'm going to give another good example. Islam. For us, Muslim, Islam is a peaceful religion. But then, if you talk with someone who doesn't like Islam, of course, that has a different meaning. That has a different connotations. So having a proper interaction, having a proper understanding is very, very important in the process of communications. So you can see it's a process that ongoing. It's hard to really identify when you start, when you stop, especially when it comes to face-to-face interpersonal communication. The moment you see someone, that is basically the first point of that particular interactions. Some people have the idea, okay, you only interact when you talk. No. For example, just now when you see me on the screen, I think you know you have some kind of judgment on who is this person. When you look at my photo, you know the person is such and such and such. So some people, they have the idea that the moment you talk, that's the beginning of the interaction. Not necessarily. As simple as if you go, maybe if you walk in America right now, if you see someone with hijab, the person doesn't have to say he or she is a Muslim. By looking at the attire, you know that the person is, quote unquote, you assume that the person is a Muslim. Yeah. Okay, let's proceed further. So communication involves these two key divisions, transmitting and receiving. So if you look at this particular statement, the process involves at least two different parties, but I'm going to simply outline what are the types after this. With the types are not really stated in my PowerPoint. If you refer to many texts, they will have these types listed one by one. You have intrapersonal communication, extrapersonal communication, interpersonal communication, mass communication, and you have public communications. Yeah. So, but basically, the process itself covers two different divisions: transmitting and receiving. So, meaning to say you have someone who is transmitting or sharing or sending the message to you, and you have another party who is receiving the message. So, you have transmitting the message, and you have someone receiving the message. Okay, can I proceed further? So this is under transmitting, transmitting the message. You have one source. This is basically very mechanical, And just to let you know before I proceed further, these components were developed by mathematicians in the beginning. So basically, it is very mechanical, So you have a source, you have encoding. Encoding is done by the source or by the sender, Then you have the message, and of course, then you have the channel. How do you convey the messages, whether verbal or non-verbal? I did mention just now, Verbal can be of two categories. You have verbal vocal and you have non-verbal vocal. When I speak, that is verbal vocal. When you read the PowerPoint, for example, because you don't hear anything from the PowerPoint, that is basically verbal non-vocal. So similarly, when you read a book, for example, you read a book by a very famous writer, maybe Barzinji, for example, one of the authors from IIIT. Barzinji in that context does not vocally talking to you. He is actually non-verbally talking to you. You cannot hear the voice of Barzinji in the book. So basically, these are the channels that we use. And you have another category where you talk about verbal and non-verbal vocal and non-verbal non-vocal. Non-verbal vocal would be when someone's screaming. You cannot hear any words. Those are just sound only. Even if it's as simple as this, if you ask someone, just to make sure whether someone is okay or not okay, you ask these questions. Are you angry? And then the person says, no, I'm not angry with a high pitch. The pitch itself will say something about that person. So this is where, as a communicator, including me, I have to be very, very careful with the way I convey my ideas. For some people, I only look at the words, but for some people, they look at two, the words and how you say the words. Then I think this is why we have problem more often than not. Sometimes the message is positive, but then the way you convey the message is very, very not positive. I think if you look at the comments on YouTube, yeah, I think I'm fond of watching YouTube, especially the Islamic content, yeah, all this WhatsApp channel, etc., etc. Sometimes the message is very good, but the way they communicate the message is not really proper. So as a communicator, we have to be very, very careful with what we say and how we say it. Yeah. Then can I proceed further? That is basically the first four just now. Then of course, and then you have the second part, receiving the message. Yeah, decoding the message. Of course, this is done by the receiver. Yeah, and then you have receiver there, and then you have feedback. So, for example, right now it's going to be very, very hard for me to really adjust the way I present my lecture because I do not know what is your feedback. I'm not sure whether you like it or not because I don't see your face, because I don't see who are actually the listener for my for this particular lecture, right? So I can simply assume that people might like the lecture, but it's going to be very, very hard for me to really be sure that you like my lecture. Unless you say, sir, I don't like your lecture, then I can simply twist and change the way I present my PowerPoint. And then you have noises. Noises can be of mechanical, can be psychological. For example, when you interact with someone, yeah, over the phone, if something happened to the phone, for example, the volume is not clear. For example, if my speaker is not loud enough, that is basically mechanical. And then you have another one which is psychological in you. Yeah, if you have this, if for example, when I use the term Islam, so I have a different meaning of Islam. As a receiver, you have a different meaning of Islam. Those are the noises. So sometimes the noises can affect the way you understand the message. It's like when you watch all these news channel, yeah, especially on YouTube, there's so many noises, and sometimes the noises can be very impactful, and that will somehow affect your understanding. Yeah. Okay, can I proceed further? So the elements that I mentioned just now are stated clear here. This is by another book by Dominic. That is basically, if you want to know the basic understanding of mass media or mass communication, you can refer to a book by Dominic entitled Dynamics of Communications. So Dominic has this particular, this is just one of the illustration used by Dominic to illustrate the situations. You have the source. If you look carefully, right now, for example, some of us might think that I'm the only communicator. But if the sessions is conducted like physical face-to-face in a hall, you are also communicating your message to me. So both parties are communicators at the same time. One thing that you have to know, silence can be a very powerful way of telling someone whether I like you or I dislike you. So you don't have to say anything to say whether you like someone or you dislike someone. So in the context of giving a lecture, for example, both parties are the sources of the message. So it cannot be it cannot be pictures as one after another. As simple as if you look at my camera right now, because I don't see your face as well. So I don't see I can't really figure out whether everybody is paying attention or not. Right. But then if this is conducted live face to face, then I can simply twist here and there a bit to suit your interest at that moment. So you have the components stated here. All the components mentioned is now transmitting and receiving. Yeah. Can I proceed further? Okay, this is the meaning of systems. Yeah, I'm going to use an example here. A system consists of interrelated parts and that affect one another. So these are the examples. Yeah, for example, if you are married, yeah, and then you are working at the same time, or for example, as a mother or as a father, you have many roles. And maybe at the office you are a professor, but then at home as a father, the way you interact with your kids might be different from the way you interact with your students. So the environment, the setting will somehow affect the way you interact, the kind of message that you interact, even the expression that you use in for the interactions. For example, maybe when you interact with your eldest son, the expression is more stern compared to when you interact with the youngest in the family. Right. Yeah. And the second one is the physical environment or the time of the day. I think this is if you refer to the Quran, there is one verse talking about the son a child cannot enter the parents' room at 3 times. Early in the morning, noon, Zohor time, and then Isha time at night time. These are the times that kids should not enter in their parents' room. Right. So when I use the term enters parents' room just now, that is part of the interactions. It doesn't matter how close are you with the parents, because this is basically the guidelines given by Islam. So I'm going to inject bit by bit, along the way, Islamic principle in my lecture. How should we do all this? How should we perform all these components at the same time observing the Islamic principles? So, for example, in the context of, at least in my context, it's good to know. It's good to have the real example. Yeah. If I have a female student coming to see me for consultation, I have to open the door, because we don't want to have other people having that assumptions. We live in a society where sometimes people might have so many assumptions. So Islam has already outlined what would be the right way to do it. Right? So this is the system. Okay, can I proceed further? For example, this one, maybe if you understand communication from the Western perspective, because if you look at the text, Western perspective of communication is very much detached from religious interpretations. For example, this one, handshaking. How many of us know that when you handshake with someone, your sins will be forgiven? And how many of us in the mosque, the best example I would say, avoid handshaking, not knowing the benefits. Right. This is from one hadith. I'm going to read the key ideas only. 2 Muslims will not meet and shake hands without having the sins forgiven before they depart. So that is, for me, a way of integrating Islamic principle in the way we interact. Remember, handshaking is a type of non-verbal, non-vocal interaction. When you shake hands with someone, that indicates something. If someone rejects someone handshaking, that means something as well. For example, if you meet someone at a conference and the person does not want to handshake with you after being offered, then you know, the person is not interested to know me or to be my friend, or at least to share something with me. As simple as this one as well. Another example, giving salam. Right. How many of us know that giving salam is a form of prayer or dua? Peace be upon you. And how many of us also at the same time, when someone gives salam, does not reply to that salam, despite the fact that it's compulsory. And that is basically telling someone, I pray for you as well. And that is not best. These are the components which are not stated in any, at least based on my humble reading, in any of the Western texts. Basically, everything is very much mechanical. Right. So basically, I'm not sure about girls, yeah. For guys, because when I go to the mosque after prayer, we just go our own separate ways. We don't really handshake, not knowing that Allah has given us so many opportunities to clean ourselves or to cleanse ourselves. Yeah, that is one of the example. Can I proceed further? The next point. Okay, this is another one. Yeah, this is verbal and non-verbal. I think many of you are familiar with this particular hadith. This is a long hadith, yeah, but I shortened it because I just want to fit everything in one single PowerPoint. I think you know who is Muaz. Yeah, Muaz is one of the closest companions of the Prophet. Yeah, so I highlighted two items here. The first one is gain me admittance to this. I'm going to read the first two parts. It was narrated that Muaz bin Jabal said, I was with the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a journey. One morning I drew close to him when we were on the move and said, O Messenger of Allah, tell me of an action that will gain me admittance to paradise and keep me far away from hell. There are many, and I just go straight to the one that I highlighted. And then, of course, you can see here, and then he said, shall I not tell you of the head of the matter and its pillars and pinnacle is jihad? And then he said, shall I not tell you the basis of all that? I said, yes. And the Prophet said, he took hold his tongue. There is double emphasis here. The Prophet used non-verbal expression to strengthen the ideas. You really have to guard your tongue if you want to go to heaven. And this is not really stated in any of the texts that we use, which are basically written by the Western scholars. So you can see Islam has already given us that kind of protections or guidelines. So you can see the Prophet used two cues here. The first one is the non-verbal cue, which is holding his tongue and then saying, refrain this. You have to watch, you have to be mindful, you have to be watchful. Okay, basically these are just examples, and you can find many other examples if you refer to different texts written by Muslim scholars. Can I proceed further? Then symbols. As I said now, we don't have that direct mind-to-mind interactions. We have to admit that we don't have that ability. Maybe for some they have. I think you know the stories indicating that the prophets or the religious people, they know at least some kind of, they are given that ability. But as ordinary human beings, we don't have that. We don't have that telepathic ability. I do not know what is the mind of in your mind right now. You might not like my lecture for whatever reason, and you might not know what is in the mind of your companions as well. So we use symbols in order to share the ideas. We have to use symbols. Remember that symbols, the meaning of symbols reside in the people, not in the symbols. Right. So as simple as for us Muslim, Islam means peace. For the Muslim haters, Islam means chaotic. House, for example, the first one is very house is very concrete. Yeah, I want to buy a house. Then you have another one. The meanings are more or less similar. Then you have another one, home. Your house might be a house, but not your home. Yeah, this is the reason why when people say that, oh, I have a big house, but that's not really my home. You don't feel homey in that particular house. You don't feel comfortable. You don't feel safe in that house. That is the physical house. And that's the reason why in Malaysia we have so many tagline or slogan. My house is my heaven. But are you sure that your house is your heaven? Right. So the way we the terms that we use are symbols that can have many meanings. For example, if you live with the Malay, maybe the Malay letters would be the Malay words would be different. But more often than not, we borrow terms from Arabic or from English. Right. There are also terms which are very much from the Sanskrit. Right. So we have to always remind ourselves, even as a professional communicator, you have to know symbols are only symbols. Human beings, they are the one who attach meaning to the symbols. Right. Yeah. So there are many examples of this if you refer to many different texts. Can I proceed further? Then meanings. This is the one I mentioned just now, where I talk about what kind of meanings attached to that particular symbols. For example, as this, if you see someone using apple, the meaning is, he must be rich. I assume that is the case. Because Apple is very expensive compared to the other brands. If you see someone driving Porsche or Tesla or BMW or Mercedes, that is only symbol, but then that indicates the status of that person. It's like when you look at my name, I have no professors. But then if you look at other people, they have professors. So you can see professors has certain meaning. Professors symbolizes higher level of knowledge. So that's the reason, just to let you know my experience as a lecturer. Maybe some of you are also a lecturer. This is my interaction, not to be generalized to other people's experience. At least on campus, some students, or at least a few students, they only give salam to professors, not doctors. The reason why? Because professor has more weight. So salam is attached with professorship. In that context, which shouldn't be, according to Islamic perspective. And we commit that errors more often than not in our daily interactions. As simple as this, I give salam to my friends only. I don't give salam to the other people in the group, which is not correct. Salam should be given to everybody. You are spreading peace, am I right? Peace can be understood as peace literally, and peace in terms of I don't disturb you, but then that provides some kind of prayer as well. So basically, we have, I myself, I miss many chances of spreading peace. Right, yeah. So meanings differ according to your background, your knowledge, and of course the people who are your companion system. Yeah, for example, Islam, the word divorce, is a very sensitive, is a very sensitive symbol. So a husband should not be uttering the word divorce, I divorce you, whether jokingly or seriously, unless you have that intention to divorce your wife. Maybe in the Western culture, there is nothing. I can simply say I divorce you, but then there is no implications. But in Islam, the moment you say you divorce your wife, then you are divorced. That is the difference between Islam and that is the difference between Islamic perspective and a non-Islamic perspective. Even as simple as this, when a daughter or son say to parents, that symbolizes ungratefulness. But then if you go to YouTube right now, you can see so many challenge saying shut off to your parents, because that is the culture in that particular country. But as Muslims, that is a no thing to do. And I strongly believe everybody knows that paradise is basically with the mother. And of course, in one hadith, the Prophet stresses the mother 3 times, then only the father. So mother has certain meaning. In Islam, is highly, highly cherished. But maybe not in other culture, or maybe not in certain culture. That's the reason you have challenge. If you have the time after this, even right now, you can check YouTube channel. Go for shut up parents. Then you can see so many people accepting that challenges. Right. Can I proceed further? Then you have models. I'm going to go through. I have until 10:45, right? Or 10:30.
Yeah, 10:30. But I can have 3-4 minutes.
Okay. No problem. So there are some basic. There are many models for you to understand. Yeah. Can we scroll? Can you go further? This is a linear model. I just want to go to the last model. Can you move to the last one? Okay, scroll further. Yeah, this is the first model, which is done. This is developed by mathematicians. Yeah, so it's very mechanical as it is now. Nothing to do with the soul. You look at the system. You look at human beings as number only. They don't have anything with them, except for numbers. Can I proceed further? Then go further, because I have 3 minutes only. Then go with the last one. Okay, last model, interactive. Okay, can you go to the illustration? Yeah, so this is basically the latest model describing how what is communications. So the way we interact is very much affected by who we are, the surrounding, and of course our understanding of the world as well. Yeah. So then I proceed further. You can simply refer to my PowerPoint later. Can I proceed further? But then can you click and click? Oh yeah. So in Islam we have this Tawhidic framework. So whatever we do as human beings should be guided by the guidelines given by Allah. Nothing should be outside that framework. Remember, it's not a model, it's not a theory. I was commented by my supervisor when I did my PhD a few years ago. Are you sure this is a theory? No, this is not a theory, because you cannot test and pre-test Tawhidic principle. As a Muslim, we have to accept the fact that this is the only way. So whenever we interact with people, I have to remind myself I'm only a servant of Allah. So can we proceed further? Then this is by one of the scholars in Islam, by Maulana. So you can see here, Tawhid is if exercise and practice, then you can see media communication do not have meaning where there is no social accountability. So we need to have that awareness. We need to remind ourselves whenever we say something, there are consequences of our actions, whether we like it or not. There is no such thing as action without consequences. Can I proceed further? Then further, you can see here, this is a verse from the Quran, Surah Qaf, chapter number 50, verses 16 to 18. You can see, I highlight the last one, verse 17. Not a single word is uttered by one, but there is a watcher near him ready to record. So as a Muslim communicator, including myself, because teaching is not about teaching people, it's about teaching yourself as well. So I have to be very, very mindful with whatever elements or statements or ideas that I share with anybody or with my student. Because none is not recorded. Everything is recorded. Can I move further? And then this is basically the history of mass media. So I think basically the process is more or less similar. And then I won't be able to cover this one. I just want to show you this one. This is basically the movement of what you see right now, from the earlier period to now. So basically, I've covered the basic elements of communication, because it's a bit hard to cover everything within 45 minutes. But I hope you get the key understanding of how do you see communication as a process. I think that will be all from me. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.